And good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It's been a couple weeks, so we've got some news to catch up on. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got to cover the whole broad scope of the DMV sports landscape. We're going to start with a little bit of baseball news. The Nats won their arbitration case with first baseman Nate Lowe. We're going to talk about what that means for both sides and what it means for the relationship that has only been around for a couple of months. Orioles also in the news a little bit with some injury update on closer Felix Bautista. It's not as good as we would have hoped, and that is actually worse than it sounds. We're then going to jump into hockey, where the Caps have reached the well-deserved All-Star break. We're going to look at how the season's gone so far. Pretty dang good for those of you who've been tuning into the show regularly. You know they're pretty hot. They've had a pretty good season. We're going to talk about the current MVP, what's been the story so far, and what needs to be the story for them the rest of the way as they push through their last third of the season. Then we're going to be jumping over to basketball. We're going to be doing the same, only the tone is going to be the exact opposite, because I can call them the Lizards this time because they have actually won a couple of games, but overall the season has been, well, actually, to be honest, pretty much what we thought it was going to be. We're going to look at who the MVP is, what the stories are so far, and what to watch for the last third of their season. We'll then finish it up with some college sports. We have some basketball to catch up on. Some of our DMV teams are going up the rankings. Some of them are coming back down. That's in both women's and men's. We're going to look at who's hot, who's not, and who probably will not be seeing an NCAA tournament bid in just a few weeks. Well, I guess it's about a month now out from Selection Sunday. We're also going to jump into baseball and softball because those have kicked off in the college ranks as well. We're going to look at who's looking good for the season and who's maybe not, all while enjoying a lovely beer to continue our Black History Month theme. We've got all that and more coming up on Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And once again, welcome into Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to all of our sponsors, Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky that's on a whole other planet. I am personally a fan of the volcanic jalapeno. It's got a nice kick to it, but if you don't like the spicy stuff, they have your classic flavors, your simpler flavors as well. But go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Also, Vital Apparel, please be sure to check them out and use IESR code IESR to get 15% off of your purchase. Remember that they donate to mental health research. It's a great cause. It's a very important cause. So do be sure to check them out and help support them on their journey today. Seal the Deal Wax Seals, custom wax seals, the perfect touch for your special occasion, special event, baby shower, wedding, birthday, whatever it may be. Check out Seal the Deal Wax Seals on Instagram at @SealTheDeal_wax seals. And also our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com today and use promo code IESR for 10% off. They have all of your nutritional supplement needs. It's a lot more than just protein. I think, everybody kind of associates, oh, you need protein. Well, you need a lot of nutrients, and go to Raw Nutrition. They've got you covered on all of your bases. Once again, that's getrawnutrition.com. Use code IESR to get 10% off today. And of course, reminder to follow IE Sports Radio on all major social media platforms: X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Visit the website to check out all of the latest and greatest sports news. And of course, visit yours truly on X at Let's Wine _IESR. If you've got some great DMV stuff, some great DMV notes, I would love to see them on X. So do be sure to follow me there. We've got a ton of sports to get to, but first, we must continue on with our theme, which unfortunately got to skip last week, so we got to pick them up this week with Black History Month. Now, I stumbled on a bit of information just the other day that I was not aware of, so I'm here to share that with you. So, there is a gentleman by the name of Garrett Oliver. He is the brewmaster of Brooklyn Brewery. He has actually been so for many years, a couple of decades actually. He actually is an award-winning brewmaster who's won several awards in his time, including an honorary Beer Academy sommelier from a British organization, from the Institute of Brewing and Distilling, and he's an international beer champion. He was the editor for the 2011 Oxford Companion of Beer and served as a judge at the Great American Beer Festival. So shout out to Garrett Oliver, truly a fantastic brewmaster, and Brooklyn Brewing makes some fantastic beers as well. Today, we have their lager, but they have a ton of great ones. They have a Black Ops Stout, which is very popular, and they do a whole bunch of different special releases throughout the year as well. But tonight, we're keeping it simple. We're going with their Amber Lager. Now, this is 5.2%. It is just as it's described, an amber lager. This is the lager that changed the world. Our dry hopped amber lager was born in Brooklyn and is crafted to be as bold as it is inviting. It is described as bold, toasty, and iconic. Check out brooklynbrewery.com to see what other options they have, but we are here to test this option. Now, I have known of Brooklyn Brewing since my time at Total Wine, but I did not know the cool backstory of their brewmaster. So that is great to see. Great work there by him. And that, I must say, was a phenomenal pour to catch on camera. Look at that. That was beautiful. So you're looking at the color there. It's kind of between a golden and an amber. You've got little elements of both. Like this computer screen comes up a little bit more golden. I get a little bit of amber in person here. But it is a lager, lager is one of the simplest forms of beer you can have. In most cases, it's just made with the four base ingredients of a beer, which is hops, malts, barley, and yeast. Those are the only four ingredients you need to make a beer. A lot of people throw a lot more in there, and then of course, you mess with the balance of them, and you get things like IPAs, for example. But we're going simple classic here with a lager. Let's give it a sniff. Just smells like a simple, crisp, clean beer. But of course, it all comes down to the taste. So let's give it a taste. Yep, it keeps it simple, very crushable. The alcohol content pretty much right in that standard beer range, kind of the 4.5 to 5.5%. Look, this is a beer. Its description is simple. You heard it here off the can. Its ingredients are simple. It's not trying to be anything it's not. It's just trying to be a good, solid, clean beer, and that's exactly what it is. Balanced, a little toasty, like the can says. Iconic, sure. But yes, if you are a beer drinker, just a casual beer drinker, you're not some weird beer cicerone or you're not some self-described beer expert. If you just like beer, or as they describe it, as a lot of people call it, beer-flavored beer, this is the beer for you. Brooklyn Lager, great stuff. Very good brewery out of Brooklyn. Thumbs up from me. We're going to go ahead, before we take our first break, we're actually going to cover our little bit of baseball news that I mentioned in the intro. First, with the Nationals winning their arbitration case with first baseman Nathan Lowe. Now, for those of you that are not incredibly into baseball or don't understand some of its unnecessarily complicated aspects. So when players have accrued a certain amount of service time, i.e. have played a certain amount of games or a certain number of seasons, they enter a period of what is called arbitration years. Now, the teams that have them under contract still have first rights to them. It's not like somebody can swoop in and offer a bigger contract like you would say a restricted free agent in the NFL. The teams still have first rights to offer them a contract. However, the player has a lot more negotiation room on how they can approach that salary. And the more years you have, or approach that offer, that salary offer. Now, the more years you have accrued, the higher that salary offer usually becomes, along with improved performance. Like, if you have a down year, for example, you're probably not getting that much of a raise. Or, if you've been dealing with injuries for a couple of years, of course, teams might not even bother offering you a salary in that case. But when the Nationals acquired Nathaniel Lowe, he was entering his final arbitration year, which is his final year of team control before he becomes an unrestricted free agent in the offseason upcoming after the 2025 season. So he had not had his salary established by the Texas Rangers when he came on. So the Nationals had to make a salary offer. Now, both teams have to be realistic. If a guy's been in the league for 5 years and playing at all-star level, don't be stupid and offer him something insulting like $2.5 million a year. That's not going to get it done. At the same time, the players also have to be reasonable. And in most cases, they are. And, the teams kind of converge together. Sometimes a team makes an arbitration offer to a player and they just accept. Simple. Check. Moving on with life. Sometimes the player does not initially agree, but the two sides come back and forth, they negotiate it, and they settle on a number, probably somewhere between what the team had and what the player had. Boom. Check. Moving on. There are occasions, and this usually happens maybe 3 or 4 times a year throughout the entire league, so it's not incredibly common, where the two sides just stay so far apart that they can't find a middle ground. And that is when they literally bring in an arbiter, which is actually a legal term. Arbitration is actually a legal process, but they bring in an arbiter or a mediator to kind of sit in the middle and look at both sides and go, All right, you win, whether it's the player or the team. Now, in this case, both sides presented their offers to the arbiter, and the arbiter weighed both arguments, both things, and they ruled in favor of the Nationals. Now, according to reports, the Nationals' offer was $10.3 million, which is the winning offer, and Lowe was at $11.1 million. Only an $800,000 difference, but sizable enough to where, yes, there could be some debate. Teams are only willing to give so much, players are only willing to give so much at some point. Sometimes it just, ends up in the middle that way. But what does this mean for the relationship? Well, it means it's gotten off to a pretty rocky start because you traded for this player and then you guys couldn't agree on a contract. Now, that could be on the fault of the team, on the fault of the player. I mean, the arbiter ruled in favor of the team. So according to that particular person, he thought that the team's offer was more properly in line with the player's value. But the fact that it made it this far and the fact that this wasn't worked out prior to his arrival is usually a pretty bad sign. I'm not saying it's like the end of the relationship or anything like that, but usually, teams that have to go through arbitration, sometimes there could be some sour feelings over this one. And I hope that in Lowe's case, they're able to put it behind them, both the team and the player, and he comes out and he performs well. He especially might be extra motivated to do so since he'll be an unrestricted free agent. Now, the team might be behind the eight ball a little bit now, to where if Lowe comes out and has an excellent season, now he's an unrestricted free agent. And now he's getting offers. And now he's in a situation where maybe he remembers that the team wasn't willing to give him an extra $800,000. And maybe he might go, I don't know if I want, I'm just going to throw a number out there, $25 million a year from the Nationals. I might be willing to take, $24 million from the Red Sox. I'm just making that up. I don't think that would happen, but might be willing to take $24 million from the Red Sox. Since $800,000 isn't that big of a deal, could I see it happening? Absolutely, but surely this has been a very interesting start to the relationship between the Nationals and Nathaniel Lowe. So keep an eye on that one. As you're following the Nationals, keep an eye on Lowe and how his season progresses. Other baseball news, we got a little bit of an injury update on Orioles closer Felix Bautista. Now, a interview came out, I believe it was with manager Brandon Hyde, where he was talking about Bautista getting on the mound for when pitchers reported and starting to throw, and they said, yeah, he's about 85%. Now, that is not good. And let me tell you why that's not good. Because Felix Bautista got injured in, I believe it was late August or early September of 2023. Okay? It is now February of 2025. It has been 18 months. There were hints that maybe, possibly, he could have been back for a playoff run last year if the Orioles had gotten a little deeper than, when they got swept in the wild card round. And now here we are with opening day 45 days away. I think less than, let's say 40 days away. 40 days away. And he's at 85%. That's not a great sign. Now, hopefully, he can get that other 15% because he is the key to the Orioles bullpen. You look at what the Orioles bullpen is structured like, having him as closer is a big deal. Yes, they made some moves around, but there's a pretty big drop off to where it's currently set to where if Bautista can't go, now probably Sir Anthony Dominguez, who handled the closer role for the last third of 2024, is the closer, who he's not as good as Bautista. No offense, Sir Anthony. He's not as good. And also, that takes him out of a setup man role, which now he has to be replaced in that setup man role, probably by Cionel Perez, who I was hoping, based on his last two seasons, would be in a more lower leverage position because he's pitched well for stretches, but he's been inconsistent. So now, if he can't go, you're forcing your setup man into your closer spot, so your closer spot's weaker, and now you're forcing a low leverage reliever into probably a more high leverage reliever role, which weakens that spot. So you can see how this isn't looking good if Bautista is not a full go to start the year. And pitchers like Bautista, big, powerful pitchers who throw absolute gas, 88, 89, 100, or 98, 99, 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, little things being wrong makes a big difference. So that will be something to watch as we navigate our way through spring training. That will do it for the first part of our show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking hockey and basketball. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson,
It's your boy, Dentarius Lock.
and we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It is time to talk hockey and basketball because both the NHL and the NBA are on their breaks, their all-star breaks, amazingly at the same time. I don't know if that was planned or scheduled. I don't know if I've ever seen the two leagues overlap so perfectly, but hey, here we are, and this gives us a phenomenal opportunity to catch up on maybe some missing news, or, if we've missed something dramatic. So let's start with the Caps. Review at the break. I'm not calling it the halfway point because both leagues are 2/3 of the way through their season. So the break is going to be the more accurate way to describe that. So at the break, the Caps sit at 36, 11, and 8. That is 80 points through 55 games, which I believe it's approximately 119 point rate. So that's pretty good. They were 6-1-3 in their last 10 games leading up to the break. They have only lost one game in regulation since the new year, since 2025. Only one. You see it right there. All of their other losses have been in overtime or shootout, which is still a loss, but you get a point. So that's pretty darn important to get those points. So who is the current MVP? Like, if the season ended today, who would be the Washington Capitals MVP? This is a tough one because, you could make the argument for Ovechkin because he's had a great season, but he missed a good amount of time. Dylan Strome leads the team in points and assists. Alexei Protas, I believe, leads the team in... No. Is it Protas? Yeah. Protas leads the team in plus minus. So there's a lot of different leaders at a lot of different spots, but there's one guy at one spot who leads the team across the board and has done a phenomenal job this year, well above expectations. And that man is goaltender Logan Thompson. He would be today my MVP for the Washington Capitals. He is top 5 in the NHL in goals allowed, save percentage, and wins. It didn't start that way. He was decent to start, but over the past month and a half, he got on a really good hot stretch, and that led to, of course, to his contract extension. I believe he was the NHL Player of the Week a couple of times, so he has really turned it on strong, and he has stabilized what was an inconsistent position for the team last year. They did not get great goaltending out of the combination of Darcy Kemper and Charlie Lindgren. Lindgren was okay. Kemper was below expectations. That's why Kemper was traded in this offseason, and then they brought in Thompson. It was a bit of a concern because Thompson was a bit of a journeyman, and then you had Lindgren, who's a bit of a journeyman. So the concern was, you assumed that these two were going to split the time. How was it going to work out? Well, Thompson has more than stepped up into the plate. Lindgren's played pretty well also, but Thompson has been the one that's taken over the position, that's stabilized it, and provided much better play. And currently, he's on base to have one of the best seasons that a Capitals goaltender has ever had, which is incredible considering we've had the likes of Braden Holtby and Olaf Kolzing as in our goaltending history. So Logan Thompson, midseason MVP, fantastic performance. What has been the story for the Caps? How are they doing so well? Well, the key to them has been balanced. A lot of players have been contributing. 9 players have double-digit goals. 11 players have 20 or more points. It's been a lot of, the first line's playing great. The second line's playing great. The third line is producing. The fourth line is producing. There are very few holes. All 3 defensive pairs are playing well. There have been few holes. There hasn't been anybody who's really taken charge and really taken over, except for Ovechkin for stretches. But at times, Pierre-Luc Dubois has been great. Alexei Protas, Connor McMichael, Dylan Strome, Tom Wilson, even some of the third-line guys like Lars Eller, Nick Dowd. The rookie, Ethan Frank, came up and scored 3 goals in his first 4 games. So there's just been a lot of good contributors top to bottom of the roster. I didn't even get into the defenders. John Carlson, who has 31 assists in 55 games. Jacob Chekrin, whose name I have been mispronouncing all season long. I've been calling him Jacob Kykrin. His last name is pronounced Chekrin. I do that probably about once a year on this show. There's a player who I just simply mispronounce his name altogether. So Jacob Chekrin's been great. Rasmus Sandin's been great. Trevor Van Riemsdyk at one point had 15 assists and 0 goals. It's okay. He's been doing great. Matt Roy on the defensive end. Martin Favory on the defensive end. All of them have been good. No single position on this roster has been a weakness. Now, what is there to watch for? It's not a perfect roster. Let me put it this way. There are very few, if any, holes, but there are still spots that you could probably upgrade. There might be, at most, I would expect a small trade at the deadline. Now, why am I only hoping for a small trade? You must be thinking, Mike, you got to go big. You got to get that last piece and make a run. Well, not necessarily. Like I said, this team has been playing well top to bottom. I don't know if it's worth it to bring a big name $10 million a year or $8 million, $7 million a year guy in for him to be the third line winger. I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. I do think there's potential for a small trade. There have been plenty of rumors that they could be the Caps could be targeting a third line center, which is interesting because they already traded for Lars Eller, but that was a small trade. And plus, you could easily bump Eller to fourth line, shift Nick Dowd over to the wings, and you'd have to bump somebody probably down to Hershey. I don't know who you would at this point. You might have to waive Jacob Vrana in order for that to happen. He hasn't been playing that much anyways. And then you would rotate Ethan Frank, Taylor Radish, and Brandon Duheim, kind of get those guys rotating playing time. as well. But that's it. That's the only thing I could see them doing, is maybe making a small trade for a decent third line center, maybe somebody who's got a little bit of a contract, so that you don't have to worry about replacing too many guys next offseason. Somebody maybe with like a $3.5 million salary for the next couple of years to man that third spot behind Dylan Strome and Pierre-Luc Dubois, who are definitely the 1 and 2 moving forward. Other than that, it's all about the momentum. Every sport is the same. It's all about the momentum you carry into the playoffs. If you are cold entering to the playoffs, I don't care if you won 80% of your games. You're probably getting bounced in the second round. You might make it past the first round because you're playing maybe a team that just kind of snuck in. But if you do not have that momentum, you are going to get eliminated. So they had the 6-1-3 entering the break. That's pretty good momentum. They need to pick it back up off the break, and they need to carry that for the last 26 games so that they can maintain that number 1 seed, which gets you a matchup against an 8 seed. That's going to be a middling team in the Eastern Conference. There are a handful of them kind of in the middle there fighting for that spot. But you're not getting a stalwart opponent. So staying ahead in the division, staying ahead in the Eastern Conference. I don't care if they win the overall points. I care about getting a good first round matchup. That is it. And you do that by maintaining either the 1 seed or the 2 seed and getting that wild card matchup. And of course, we have to pick up the Ovechkin record watch because he scored a few goals before the break there. He is up to 879 career goals, 15 to tie, 16 to pass, 26 games left in the season. Let's see if he can get that to happen. That is the equivalent of, 3 goals every 5 games, approximately, if you were to divide that. So that's 0.6 goals per game, which also happens to be his career average. The math is checking out, and I think this season, because he's missed time, he's averaging like 0.68 or something ridiculous like that. I don't remember exactly what that number is, but he's doing great. It's a shame that he missed the time that he did because, now he's a little bit behind the 8 ball, no pun intended. But actually, that's a very pun intended. I'm going to say pun intended there. But yes, keep it going. Keep that 0.6 goal per game average going, OV, and you will break the record. Heck, break the record in the last game of the season. Why the heck not? Let's make the drama, okay? Let's be dramatic about it. Make it a show. Wayne Gretzky's going to be there anyways, because I think they said once Ovechkin gets within 4 or 5, Gretzky is going to start traveling with the team so that he can be present for when the record is broken. So now we've talked about the team that's been great this season. We have to go to the team that's been this all season. It's been very bad all season. The Wizards, which I do call them the Wizards this week because they did win a few games before the All-Star break. Not a lot. They increased their win total for the season by 50%. Their win percentage is technically higher than when we last talked about them. So, we got that going for us. Anyways, 9-45 entering the All-Star break, which happens to happen at the almost exactly 2/3 way point. It was 28 games left. And I realized it was 27 games left. Sorry, 27 games. I had my math wrong. 27 games left for the Caps, 28 games left for the Wizards. And I'm just going to quick update a graphic really quick. So, 9-45 at the break, 3-7 in their last 10. They actually had a 3-game winning streak, which I think was the first one of those they've had all year. Which came after their 16-game losing streak. It's one way to end the streak. But then they followed that up with a 4-game losing streak because, balance, I guess. I don't know. But, this team, we've been talking about it all season long. I don't want to beat a dead horse. It's just been bad. It's been bad. But there is an MVP. It's not like the Player of the Week award, which I don't assign when the team has a 16-game losing streak. There is an MVP. It's a very obvious MVP. It's been Jordan Poole, point guard. 21 points per game, 5 assists per game, 1.5 steals per game. shooting 42% from the field, 37% from three, and 88% at the free throw line. So he has been by far the most consistent player. He's been the leader of the team, the leading scorer by far. He's missed a handful of games, I think 7, so he hasn't played in the most games. That actually goes to rookie Bub Carrington, who's the only Wizards player who's played in every game. So shout out to Bub for that achievement. That's pretty good. I think the only Wizards player in the last 5 seasons to play in every game in a season was Denny Avdia. So hey, if Bub can join those ranks, all the better for him. But Jordan Poole, MVP so far, leading this team for what it's worth. He's got a great rapport with the young players, and we're going to get to that in a second here. But what has been the theme of the season? We all know what the theme of the season has been. The tank is strong. They are tanking like nobody's business, leaving the veterans on the bench, playing the rookies as much as possible. Not that the rookies have been bad. The rookies have actually been pretty good. You could argue that the Wizards have 3 of the top 10 rookies so this year in the NBA. You can make that argument. I'm not saying that it's 100% correct, but you can easily argue that. In fact, when there's an NBA analyst that did his redraft at the break, and if he were to redraft it today, Alex Sarr would go number 1. He went number 2 to us. Bub Carrington would go 11. He went 14 to us. And Keyshawn George would go 18. He went 24. So he believes all of the Wizards rookies have been outperforming their draft slot. So that's encouraging at least. But yes, and additionally, the rookies have started to come on pretty well after the trade deadline. The trade deadline saw Kyle Kuzma get traded, Jonas Valanciunas get traded, Johnny Davis and Patrick Baldwin both gone. Who else? There were a couple of other guys. Oh, Marvin Bagley went at the deadline, and the new players who have come in who you would normally say, okay, these are the guys that are going to take the minutes, guys like Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, they have not really arrived in DC yet. Say hello to my cat. There's my cat. So that has given the rookies even more time, and the rookies and young players, because Bilal Coulibaly has been playing well with his increased minutes also. So the rookies coming on strong after the trade deadline is an encouraging thing to see. Also, Alex Sarr coming back from injury is very encouraging. And I got to say, I'll probably talk about this again at the season's end. I need these rookies to put some meat. And rookies and Coulibaly need to put some meat on the bones. They are way too skinny, but I will get to that probably more as we finish up the season. So, what to watch for in the last 28 dismal games of the season? Well, continued rookie development. Get the young guys more playing time, and let's see if they can't continue to hone their skills in a very low-pressure situation. Nobody expects them to win anything. So let's see if that works for them. Playing time for other young role players, namely, and these are guys who have been getting playing time, namely Justin Champagny and Tristan Vucevic. Champagny has been playing a lot for the last 2 or 3 months, so not as much him, but Vucevic is a guy who I want to see. And then some of the guys that they acquired at the trade deadline, Colby Jones and AJ Johnson, seeing them get some playing time as well, get them some experience. Guys that in the future will probably fill in the middle third of the roster. The middle third of the bench, not the whole roster, because you have your starting 5, you have your key bench, you have your middle bench. That's where these guys are going to fall, Champagny, Vucevic, Johnson, and Jones. So I would love to see them continue to get playing time so that they can be really good in those roles. And Champagny might even be better than that. Champagny and Vucevic need full-time contracts, and they need to sign them to probably 2 or 3 year deals and lock them in, because they look pretty darn good. It was a little sad that they traded Jared Butler at the trade deadline, but it is what it is. He was the only one I was sad about. Everybody else who got traded, I was completely fine with. But they did bring in some interesting talent, and I get it. It's part of the switching back and forth. I think because the first deal that happened was the Kuzma trade to Milwaukee that brought back AJ Johnson. So I think when they got Johnson in, who was actually a first-round pick in this past draft, that was the young point guard that they were looking in the depth. So I think at that point, Butler's role got a little bit muddled, which is probably why they moved on from him. But continued rookie development, playing time for young role players, and then Poole's continued leadership. Like I said, he's got a great rapport with all of these young players. And the more and more I've watched him, and the more and more I've seen highlights, replays, interviews after the game with the players, the more and more I'm like, Poole's one of the guys. Poole is one of the guys that I think as you move through this rebuild, you keep him. I know they signed him to the extension, so he's under contract. He's not going to be the guy. The guy isn't on the team yet. It could be Cooper Flagg or whoever they take in this upcoming draft. It could be somebody they trade for in the offseason. He's not going to be the guy, but he's going to be one of the pieces. He's not going to be the Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's going to be the Drew Holiday, the Brook Lopez, the Bobby Portis, the key support player who helps the big guy and is an important piece to the roster as a whole. So that is going to be the role for Poole as we head down the stretch and in years to come. We're going to take our second quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up with some college sports. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We have a few minutes left in our show, so we're going to jump into the college sports ranks. We're going to start with basketball, because basketball season is obviously very hot right now. Taryn Rodriguez in the chat room also chipping in here, saying that George Mason won twice this week in EIVA conference play, beating Sacred Heart. Awesome. That would be volleyball related for those of you that don't quite get the verbiage here. Taryn Rodriguez, the host of our Set Point show, which is the best volleyball podcast on the internet, and you just heard the drop for it. So Taryn always keeping us up to date on everything volleyball, which is greatly appreciated and awesome. So thank you for that update, Taryn. Go George Mason. I almost went to George Mason for grad school. Fun fact. Yes, so college basketball catch-up. both Maryland teams continue to be ranked, which is great news. The men's team is starting to lose some momentum. The women's team is still going strong. Both look like they are in prime position to get NCAA tournament bids, a lot more concrete than they were 2 weeks ago. Not to say that they weren't concrete, but there was still a lot of season left. So both teams still doing well in that regard. In other college basketball news, the University of Virginia men's team is still fighting hard. They've won 3 in a row. Record still isn't great, but they do have a little bit of momentum, so maybe they can parlay that into more wins and perhaps a decent ACC tournament run. The women's team is struggling. They've fallen below 500. At this stage in the season, if you're below 500, you kind of need a miracle in order to get a tournament bid. So the men's team is fighting hard. The women's team is kind of struggling here. For Virginia Tech, it's the flip. The women's team is fighting hard. They're up to 16-9. They are challenging very well and making their case for an NCAA tournament bid. The men's team, however, has dropped below 500. And again, if you're at 500 at this point, you need a miracle. So the reverse for the two Virginia teams. I did see that in women's basketball, the Richmond Spiders have started to gain some momentum and some votes to be ranked. So shout out to the Richmond women's basketball team. And let's see if there's anybody in the men's ranks from the DMV who is garnering some additional attention. Let's see, going down the list. Let's see, there's Maryland there at 25. And George Mason's women's team or men's team has gotten some votes to get ranked. So shout out to George Mason's men's basketball team as well. Looks like they're having a strong season. Now we are going to jump to baseball, college baseball and college softball. Those seasons have both kicked off. So what are we looking at? Who are we looking for in both the men's and women's ranks here? So in the men's ranks, University of Virginia, one of the perennial contenders, they're ranked number 2 to start the season. They have a bright season ahead, clear contenders for the College World Series, so they will be a team to watch throughout the season, which is normally the case. They're usually one of the best teams in the nation. Virginia Tech and Maryland should be competitive. Will they be College World Series competitive? Maybe get back and out peripheral bids to the main tournament, but will they make the super regionals or the actual World Series? Probably not. That would be a far stretch for those two teams. But competitive, good baseball, yes. I think we're going to see that out of both of these squads. And then on the softball side, Virginia Tech's off to a hot start. They're ranked 18th in the country. They actually won today 6-0. And pitcher Emma Lemley has thrown 2 perfect games in 5 days to start the season. So that's literally the best start you can have to the season. So shout out to Lemley. She's had like 36 strikeouts or so, or 30 some odd strikeouts in 2 games, and they only do 7-inning games as well. So you're only talking about 21 outs. So 42 outs total between the 2 games. She has struck out over 30, so she struck out over 75% of the batters she has faced. So great start for her. Virginia Tech off to a hot start. I think they're coming up the ranks a little bit because they started down at 18, but if they continue this stretch, they are going to suddenly become a softball World Series contender as well. Now, University of Virginia, University of Maryland, maybe not a super competitive go for them. Surprises happen. Teams evolve, players evolve. But it would be a stretch for me to see either of them really being strong contenders. Probably a step below where the baseball teams are, like in terms of like competitiveness, relatively speaking. So yeah, we'll cross our fingers for UVA and Maryland. Maryland baseball and softball might be on the outside looking in, but at least the Virginia teams have some promise looking into this season. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you all for tuning in. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky premium brisket beef jerky that's on a whole nother planet. Also vital for apparel. Do not forget to use code IESR to get 15% off of your purchase today and continue to support them as they support mental health research. Also, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, custom seals. Check them out on Instagram at SealTheDeal_Wax Seals. And our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Use code IESR to get 10% off today at GetRawNutrition.com. Do not forget to follow IE Sports Radio on all social media platforms: X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Check out our website, IESportsRadio.com, where you'll find our blog, you'll find the daily show pages, you'll find the daily show schedule, the show pages, merchandise, all of the above, and more. Also, be sure to follow yours truly at Let'sWine_ISR on X. And listen to us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, a whole bunch of different options there. We'll be back next week to continue our Black History Month theme to talk more DMV sports. We'll be back in the swing with hockey and basketball. There might be some little baseball news from spring training, and of course, college sports will continue to ramp up. And of course, this is my prime time to remind everybody of the show's main message, which is please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media posts regarding this topic is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. I will not be going anywhere after this, and if you've been drinking, neither should you. So if you're at home, please stay put. Or if you're out and about enjoying your Saturday night, just please find a safe way home. Uber, taxi, designated driver, Lyft, Amazon, ship yourself home. I don't care what it is, just please do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.